friends. I'm going to go over a lesson that I went over the other day, and it's doing the complex figures, finding the perimeter, but today we're finding the perimeter and the area. And I actually did this a long time ago, but we're going to review. And I was saying the other day in my lesson how I really like doing these because they're kind of like puzzles. So hopefully you think of it as a puzzle. I sent a worksheet to you, and then I also sent an answer sheet to you so you can check it. And if you do the work and then you check it and you can't figure out where you made your mistake, come to the meeting at 12 and I'll go over it with you. So if I'm doing the perimeter of that shape, so let's say this is my rectangle and this is 3 inches and this is 4 inches. Okay, remember to find the perimeter, I'm measuring all of the outside. So if this is 3, then I know that this is 3 inches, and if this is 4 inches, I know that this is 4 inches. And if I add the outside, 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 6 is 14, so my perimeter equals 14 inches, okay? Now if I'm doing area, okay, area is length times width, okay? And the reason is if this is 3 inches, it's saying that I have 3 across and 1, okay? Cubic inches, okay? Cubic inches. I did 3 across here and 4 across here, or length times width, which is 3 times 4, which would be 12 inches squared, okay, or square inches, because it's my area. And if I counted up the squares, I would have 12 cubic inches, okay? A complex figure, it is not even. It's kind of like different shapes put together. So if I had something like this, okay, that big L, and I give you some of the measurements. So let's say this is 10 inches, and this is 4 inches, and this is 4 inches. This line right here is 4 inches, okay? And this big line right here is 6 inches, okay? And I'm gonna give this as 4 inches, okay? So I'm missing this, okay? So no matter what, when I'm finding area and perimeter, I have to have the measurement of all my sides, okay? So to figure this line out, okay, the length of that line is this line, that 4 inches, plus this is the same length as that 4 up there. So it's 4 plus 4, okay? So that would mean that my whole line is 8 inches. So now I have all my sides and I can find my perimeter. My perimeter is just adding the sides. So I'm going to add them all up, okay? So I have 4 and 6, 4 and 4, 8 and 10, okay? So I'm gonna add all those up, and right here I have these two give me 10, 20, 28, 32, 36. So 36 inches is my perimeter, okay? Now area, I can't do my length times width of the whole entire shape because it's a complex figure. If I did 8 times 10, because that's my length and my width, it's saying, if I did that, it's saying that I'm covering this whole area. And there's no figure there. So I can't do 8 times 10. So I have to figure out, I'm going to break these into 2 different shapes. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4. It just depends on what you have. So I'm going to break right here up. So I have this shape and I have this shape, okay? So I'm going to have 2 different areas, okay, that I will then add together. So on this bottom shape, I know that the length right here is 8, and I know that my height, I can't do the 10 because the 10 is the whole entire from top to bottom. But I'm only measuring this part, so I know that it's 4 inches. So it's 8 times 4, which equals 32 inches squared. Okay, then I'm going to do my top rectangle, and I know that my length is 4, and I don't want to do 10, again, because that's the whole thing, so I'm just going to do this little section right here, which is 6. So 8 times 6 equals 24 inches squared, and then if I add them all together, I have 56 inches squared is my area, okay? I think the reason that I like these is it seems like a puzzle and you have to kind of play around with it. The biggest mistake that people make is if a side is not given, so like right here the 8 was not given, they sometimes will, I'm trying to make this bigger, I don't know if I can, sorry. They sometimes will do the addition of the perimeter missing that 8. And you have to have all sides accounted for. With the area, sometimes what they do is, if I was doing my rectangle here, some people will use the 10, and the 10 is actually for the whole thing, and I only want that small piece, so I would be using my 6 inches, okay? So let's try one together. So I'm going to do a figure, and I'm going to do, and your figures don't always look like letters. I'm doing that right now because it just came to my mind. All right, so let me go ahead and just give you some of the measurements. Let's say this is 9 centimeters, and this is 5 centimeters. Okay, and this is going to be 2 centimeters, okay, and this is 1 centimeter, and this is going to be 7 centimeters. Okay, so I have 9 centimeters here, 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 7 centimeters, 5, so I'm missing some, okay, so before I go to fill them in, I want you to kind of stop the video and see if you can figure out what your sides are, okay? All right, so if I need to find my missing sides, there's a couple that are really easy. So I know that this side, even though my drawing may not be that great, my sides are the same. So if this is 1 centimeter, then this is 1 centimeter, okay? Now for this line, that 9 is the same as my 2 and my 5, so 2 and then 5. So what do I need to add here so that it equals 9 because it's the same length, okay? You're right, 2 centimeters. And this is the same as this, so this is 7 centimeters. Okay, so now go ahead and add that up and get your perimeter. Stop the video and get that, and then I will tell you the perimeter in a second. Okay, so I'm gonna add 9, 1, 2, 7, 5, 7, 2, and 1. And I always like try to put my numbers together that equal 10. So 10, 20, 29, 34. So I have 34 centimeters is my perimeter, okay? Perimeter equals 34 centimeters. Okay, so now you are going to break this up, this complex figure up into 2 rectangles or squares, different shapes that you can find the area. Okay, so again, stop the video and then come back and I'll go over it with you. Okay, so what I would do, since I already have this, is I would do this right here, okay? And then I would do this shape right here. So if I'm going to do it, sometimes I do it inside the shape. So my area of this shape would be length times width. I always remind myself. And the length of it is 9, because that's the length, times 1. Okay, so my area is 9 centimeters squared. And then here, it's my length is 5, so area equals length times width, and it's 5 times 7, so it's 35 centimeters squared, and then I add that, 35 plus 9, area equals 42 centimeters squared. Okay. Your homework I sent to you, it's a worksheet, and I also set the answers. So just try to do the problems and then go back and look at the worksheet to see. And then, like I said, if you can't solve or you're making a mistake and you don't know why, please come to the math meet because I will go over it with you. These are my favorite things to do. I know, so sad, so sad. That's the story of a teacher. But I want you to also, one thing I say whenever I teach this, I always say this. It's one of those things that sometimes some people don't get right away. And the more they do it, it's kind of like one of those things when you see it. It's like one of those crazy pictures that you see and they say, look at the dot and look, and then all of a sudden you see it, but it takes you forever. And then once you see it, like you can't unsee it. It's kind of like how these are. I feel like sometimes kids have a really hard time seeing it and trying to understand how to break it up into the two different shapes. And then once they get it, it just becomes really easy for them. But it takes a while. I'm going to be honest. Sometimes it takes a while. And again, remember I told you that sometimes we see things a certain way and our neighbor doesn't and vice versa. So you may get it like that, or maybe something that you have to kind of work at. And then once you get it, it just like a light bulb goes off, okay? So these are my favorite, and I'm sorry if they're not your favorite, but I wanted you to try those today because it works with area and perimeter, which we've been working on, and we have, hopefully you remember that. All right, only a couple more math days. So I'm gonna have you do the worksheet and have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Bye.